Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to episode 140-2, or if you prefer, 140.5. What an afternoon I've had trying to get online. If you remember yesterday, this camera conked out, freezing, middle of the stream, frustrating me more than a little, not just for that day, but for the last number of days where it's done it. Now, I think I have repaired it, but I have no way of knowing because I thought it was repaired before, and yet it kept crashing. It is my hope that this camera is working well now, but getting it working has been just a little stressful. So we're not going to do a full episode today. Instead, I'm calling this a half episode, continuing from last episode, 140, where we ended needing some inventions. So I thought we would use maybe the next 18 and a half minutes to brainstorm and doodle and come up with some inventions. How are you today? I hope wherever you are not feeling stressed out, or if you are, you have techniques for dealing with them, with it. I just remembered I have a technique. Taking some deep breaths, which I'm going to do right now. Have you ever done that? You inhale as you go up a finger and exhale on your way down, which equals 5 deep breaths. Somewhere around here, I realized I'm very lucky to have a working system, even a mostly working system. This has been doing the stream over the last 140 and a half episodes has been a lot of fun for me, and I'm very thankful for it. Somewhere around here, I was thankful that I have this breathing technique. And then somewhere between there and there, I was thankful that I get to share that with you. So, I do feel better. Use that if you ever need it. And let's right now do some sketches. But in case you're not in case you're visiting for the first time and you don't know what we're doing here, my name is Mr. Gerald, and we write stories together in the story stream. We pull random words. In this case, it was cake, boulder, plant, and neon, and then we write stories using those words. We have a story right now about Katerina Cake, a person who enjoys solving problems, and Boris P., a person with a problem. Boris's problem is that his partner, Ivan Beat, keeps sending him strange inventions. So we're going to read this story, and you're going to see where we need to do the brainstorming. Let's get to it. Let me see if I can't fix that right now. Ah. This one was my own fault. In updating it, I failed to update this scene. So let's see if I can do that right now. Almost there. Almost there. All right, let's read our story. We started, as I said, with cake, boulder, plant, and neon. And we did a bit of brainstorming, and this is the story we wrote. Katerina Cake was enjoying a speed walk around the edge of Food City's dark oak forest. She did this every morning, 20 laps before breakfast. It was her favorite time of day. The cool morning air and the quiet murmur of the forest put her mind in tip-top shape for her work. Katerina was a problem solver. One morning, Katerina's routine was interrupted by an unexpected sight. "Boris," said Katerina, "what are you doing out here this early?" Boris stuck his shovel in the ground. "I have a problem. Ivan has sent another package." Ivan Beat and Boris P. ran Food City's tool library. Boris worked in the shop lending materials to anyone who needed a tool. Ivan invented. He traveled the world getting inspiration for new tools. Period. He would make his own versions of these tools, then send them to Boris in Food City. "I thought Ivan's inventions have all been helpful," said Katerina. "They used to be," said Boris, "but recently they have become unusual." 2 weeks ago, he sent me a box of clocks with 7 hands on each. Last week, he sent me a dozen frying pans with bells on them. "What do you do with all these things?" asked Katerina. "I put them in the tool library," says Boris, "but no one ever borrows them. I mean, we don't even know what they are." "That does seem like a problem," said Katerina. "It gets worse," said Boris. "Yesterday I received a dozen neon pink one-eyed rubber worms," said Boris. "Do they do anything?" asked Katerina. "They sit there and stare at me when I'm cleaning. It's creepy and I can't stand it." "And that's why I'm out here," said Boris. "I can't bear the thought of any more weird things. I'm going to bury this box and say it got lost in the mail." Boris looked very upset. Katerina couldn't help but smile. "You know, I love to solve problems," said Katerina. "Let me open that package. I bet I can find a use for whatever is inside." "Okay," said Boris, "but if you can't, whatever is in there is going home with you." "Deal," said Katerina. She picked up the box and shook it carefully. And this is where we ended, with our two friends opening the box and seeing what was inside. But it's up to us right now to decide what is in the box. So, what is in that box? When you write stories like this, where you have a character who writes the world's most amazing poem, or a character who writes the world's scariest story, or invents the world's most useful invention, the problem is you need to come up with that amazing poem, or that scary story, or that incredible invention. Adding a wrinkle is the fact that we need to make something a little peculiar, something that might have a hidden use. So instead of overthinking it, let's just do this. Let's doodle right now and just see what ideas come to us. Oh. I'm thinking right now of a comic called The Far Side by Gary Larson. I'm thinking of a comic called The Far Side by Gary Larson, and a specific comic he made called Cow Tools. I might look for that for us in a moment. Right now, let's get back to doodling. The premise of that was that it was tools created by cows, and they just were mysterious looking things. Well, let's draw some real tools first of all. A large wooden mallet. I left my large wooden mallet out in the rain on Halloween night, and it's gotten kind of moldy, which is upsetting because it's a really wonderful old tool, and I do feel bad that I mistreated it by leaving it out. Why did I have a wooden mallet out on Halloween, you ask? Well, I receive at my home over 1,000 trick-or-treaters. And in their excitement to come into my place for candy, people often cross my lawn, which isn't a big deal for me. I'm not precious about the grass in my lawn. But I do worry because I have bricks on the edge of the sidewalk that a person might trip on the bricks. So I hammer wooden stakes along the edge of my lawn, and then I string lights or rope to create a fence. And because I put so many of these in, maybe that would be something useful for me, a multi-headed mallet. Can you see what that is, or what I think that is? Let's see, if I held it in my hand, it might look like this. A hammer with many heads for people who want to drive more than one nail at once. What's this mushroom hammer idea? What could we do with that? Mushrooms on a hammer. A mushroom mallet. That's actually a good name. I do know that if you want to grow mushrooms, you don't use seeds, but you use these little plugs, which I think are just sort of a type of mycelium compressed into a tiny little bit of sawdust. And you get a log, if I'm remembering correctly, drill a hole in it, and then put this mycelium plug there. And then, as the mycelium spreads, and as the wood degrades, mushrooms will start sprouting out of your log. Maybe a hammer made with a mushroom on top for people who want to tap in nails very delicately. I'm also thinking now of those kind of hammers which have squeakers in them. So when you hammer something, it makes a squeaking sound. All right, well, on this page, the funny, weird invention, I think, is the multi-headed hammer. We've drawn, as part of the story, the saw that had beaver teeth, but perhaps we could do something with the beaver's tail instead. Now, a beaver uses its tail for slapping the water to communicate with other beavers. And I believe they may also use their tails for packing the mud they use in building their beaver dams and beaver lodges. So maybe a spatula used specifically for making mud pies. Thing is, that doesn't feel weird in any way because beaver tails, I mean, a spatula has a pretty specific use. What's another tool? Ladders? Sprite has just broken something. Let me see if I can repair it. Yes, let's see. It is a camera. A very small camera. It's actually interesting that he broke this. Let's see. Can you get a look at that? There you are. See in that circle of film all the individual rectangles? Is there any way I could share this with you? I'm going to reattach it. Each of those rectangles is a little picture. This camera shows you both those pictures overlaid, so you get what's called a 3D stereoscopic view. Oh, it's so close, so close. There you go. Sorry, it's very difficult to line this up, but I want you to see it. It's very difficult for me to figure out how I'm supposed to hold it. Now, let me try that one more time. It's the Golden Gate Bridge. That is so difficult. It moves one way in the camera, but my instinct is to move it the other. Oh, I can show you right there. On the back of the camera, it says Golden Gate Bridge. So that's your hint to what's inside. And when I push that button, it advances the picture. I'd be infuriated if I was you watching this, so I'm going to stop. I won't make you suffer that any longer. But you click that button, and you get to see a different view of the Golden Gate Bridge. All right, let's add that to our inventions. We have a ladder. Aha. What about a ladder on wheels at the top of which is a little camera for when you want to take a picture like over top of a hedge or something. What would you call this? Well, Sprite just stole something off my desk and ran off with it. I'm not sure what it is, but I'll find it downstairs later, I'm sure. Camera ladder for taking pictures over obstacles. How lucky for us that Sprite decided to visit. I'm going to find that comic for us while we have a few more minutes together. This is heavy. A very famous comic strip when I was a kid was a comic strip called The Far Side. It was by a cartoonist named Gary Larson, who painted this family's portrait. He was famous for making comics that sort of had a scientific angle to them. These two large books collects his entire work, 10 years worth of comic strips. We're going to flip through this one briefly, see if we can't find the cow comic I was speaking of. Well, we opened up to a cow comic, but it was a cow driving a tractor. 1983. This seems to be about the right time. There it is, right? Oh, right there. Cow Tools. A strip that became infamous for being indecipherable. There was not an actual punchline. The joke to this strip was that scientists were going crazy about the idea of animals making tools. Crows can be very sophisticated and use things like bent pieces of wire to fish out worms or nuts from tight spots. And they use this to talk about intelligence in animals. But what you're doing is you're measuring animals on sort of a human scale, I think, because intelligence can come in a lot of forms. So I guess that was on Gary Larson's mind. So he wrote this strip about cows and their tools to demonstrate that cows might have intelligence that we can't understand. Thing is, the point of the strip was meant to be that, you know, you don't understand what these tools are, but he made a mistake in drawing it. He admitted this himself. The mistake he made was that he made this one here actually look like a saw. So everyone thought, well, if that's a saw, this must be something else. Maybe it's a rake, maybe it's a hoe, who knows? But then what the heck are these two things? They were not supposed to mean anything, but this one, looking somewhat like a saw, confused everyone. And it became a big deal. Okay, so I'm glad to see that comic again, but I don't think that's going to give us any ideas for how we want to approach our tools, because I think we're trying to make actual tools. At least that's how I feel. But let's see, what would a cow, let's just use that as an idea though. What would a cow use, or what would a cow you know, and since the time when scientists were amazed at crows using tools, we've learned so many other animals use tools. Some of the primates do. Chimpanzees poke sticks into termite hills to fish out termites, but not just that, they actually use their skills to create the right kind of stick for fetching termites. Sorry, I was just thinking here that cows' tails are kind of like fly swatters, so what if you had a beaver tail attachment? A beaver tail attachment for cows who want to make sandcastles. I was thinking also of how octopuses, cephalopods, use coconut shells to be a type of camouflage or temporary home. You know, thinking about animals using their creating things. How about we take that idea? Of course, this isn't something that would fit in the package that's coming from Ivan Beat, but giant coconut for temporary home. It'd be sort of a yurt or an igloo. All right, let's think of one more before we say goodnight. And goodbye for now. So what do we got? We have the multi-headed hammer. We have the bucket tooth saw, the beaver tail spatula. We have the camera ladder extender. We have the cow sandcastle maker. Okay, there's Gary Larson's saw wood, or wooden saw, the other thing, and then the two like lumpy creations. These make me think of rocks. How about a bag of treats for pet rocks? Or a litter box for pet rocks? Those neon pink rubber worms that Ivan sent. To Boris. I wonder what those are going to turn out to be. I mean, they look like canes. Maybe they're like canes with flashlights. Maybe the eyeballs are actual. We have Wilson Eggplant in our town, who's one of our older citizens, but he's not, I would say, someone who needs a flashlight. Maybe our pink worms turn out to be that. Now, of course, I wrote that we had a dozen, which is 12 times 12, which is 144. I said that because we are approaching episode 144. But I think that's way too many for the story. We'll have to go back and edit that to be a better number. Maybe it's just 1 dozen. And it's for a group of seniors who like to go out in the evenings to look for rare moths. I like that. All right. Well, what is inside that box? We don't know yet, but I'm glad we did this brainstorming together today. Thank you so much for joining me on episode 140-2 or 140.5. 141. It is time for me to go, so I will be back on Friday. Until then, take care and be well. Bye for now.